Welcome back, League Nighters. Thanks for joining us again. We are back with another swing breakdown. Something pretty cool this time, though. We actually have one of our viewers, one of our YouTube subscribers, actually wrote us, emailed us, said, hey, I've got some swings. I'd love for you guys to do some swing breakdowns, and we're happy to do so. It sounds pretty good. I know he talked with you a little bit more than me. He gave you a little bit of information about like kind of where he plays, what he does. Fill us in a little bit on our boy. What do we call him? We were calling him Matty Bats. Is that what he called himself? Something like that.
I think that might have been his email address. But,
okay.
Shout out Matt Newkirk of South Jersey.
Okay.
Saw our videos on YouTube, reached out to us on Facebook, and said, "Hey, I got a couple swings. Be interested in getting some feedback." Used to be a baseball player, now plays U-Trip D in South Jersey. Send us a couple clips, some batting cage footage, and also some live BP footage here that we'll go through. As a lot of us that went from playing baseball to stepping into the slow pitch softball world, there's some adjustments that he mentioned he's working on. So we'll kind of talk about where we see those and how he's improving on those, as well as provide a little bit of extra feedback from some things that we see as well.
Yeah, for sure. We can get right into it here. I do want to say first thing, because I am a strength and conditioning coach, he looks like he's in pretty good shape for softball. Like, he doesn't look too big, but he also doesn't look like he needs to hit the weight room too hard either. So good on you, Matt, for being in the right shape for softball. So you look like a softball player, so that's a good start.
He likes that extra couple home runs that D gets that we don't get.
Oh, I know. I'm hoping that our LGH team, we kind of move into that soon once we kind of get a little more mesh together. It's going to be nice to not just have one home run to swing. But anyway, let's take a look here. Full speed at a couple of swings he did here. These were outdoors. He did not give us an exact date or anything on these, but I'm guessing because he's in Jersey, he's got green leaves on the trees. I'm guessing this was probably last fall because he said it was fairly recent. So if I had to date this, I would say this is probably September or so, maybe October of last year. So let's just take a quick look at a couple of live swings.
Matt, let us know in the comments how close we were, by the way.
That's right. Let us know. So nice shot up the middle, scaring off his BP pitcher a little bit there. Then another one up the middle there for a couple of swings. So both looked pretty good.
As we were watching those the first couple times, the first thing that we noticed is there's some pretty aggressive topspin on the ball.
Yes.
So as we kind of broke these down into slow-mo, notice the bat head comes and it starts in a flat plane, and then so there you see it's flat, and then it dips and then kind of corrects. So your bat path is actually kind of coming down and coming back up. So you're actually kind of coming like a tennis player almost.
Yeah.
You're coming with that topspin follow through because you're correcting the dip in the swing. So that's why you're seeing that pretty aggressive dive right about second base there.
Right.
As your pitcher kind of hides for dear life there. You see some pretty aggressive dive on that ball after about 75 to 100 feet. It just starts
drops really fast.
Now in swing 2, you see a little bit of the same, but it's not as obvious, which is why you're getting a lot more distance. But you do see it kind of top spins and hooks a little bit towards right center field in the second swing here.
So this one stays a lot flatter. I mean, you look at where he contacts it there. And the nice thing, too, he's kind of hitting that bottom half of the ball. So you notice he gets a lot more backspin as compared to the first one, but still getting a little bit of that tail, like Jason said, towards the right side of the field. So
if you were getting good backspin on that with a flat swing, you would expect that to hang a lot more. But because you see it dive pretty aggressively early on in the flight path, you're losing a little bit of distance. Now, would that be a hit? Absolutely. That's a great rope. But you're probably sacrificing some distance because of that little hitch in the middle of the swing there.
Yeah, for sure. Now, I would say, again, just like Jason pointed out, I think both of these swings, granted, as long as your 5-man isn't standing right at second base, I think both of these swings are probably a base hit. And if we're going to give you the benefit of the doubt, Matt, I would say on that first swing, you were probably trying to adjust to a specific pitch. Pitch was maybe a little higher than you were expecting, so you had to kind of come up at it to hit it. But I would say if we were going to take one of these two to continue practicing, and you'd probably agree with this anyway, Matt, that The second swing is more of what you're trying to do every time and what you want to practice. Now, there's some little things I would definitely fix with this, like Jason was saying. Maybe try to get a little more cut on that ball, keep it up in the air a little bit. But this one's definitely a flatter, good USSSA softball type swing, whereas that first one was a little bit of a come up over the top type of swing. So we all have to do what we have to do sometimes, especially in BP, we swing at everything. And also sometimes you got 2 strikes and you got to do what you got to do. But I would say the second swing here is definitely kind of where you want to build off of. I think this one is a pretty good swing, even though you got a little topspin, but topspin can work for you. It kind of depends on what you're trying to do. If you just want to pop it over the infield into the outfield, maybe that works for you. So not too bad. Just trying to point out a couple of things here we can see. We do have another angle on this that we're going to look at after, but just from this back angle, you can definitely see he's taking his step, he's bringing the hands back, and he is throwing those hips forward. So you notice those hips get opened up before the bat gets there. Yeah, good extension. So that's all real good. I mean, that belly button is turned back at the pitcher before or right at least the point of contact, which is really good. And again, as we pointed out, hitting the bottom half of the ball there to kind of give it just a hair of lift is pretty good. Looks like you're bracing on that front foot pretty hard. That back foot's, I don't know if it ever actually comes up. Looks like it comes up a little bit there. So you are getting all that weight transferred to the front foot, which is nice. Body's a little bit hiding where the hands let go there, which is probably right about there. But it looks like you got a pretty decent, maybe a little bit of a late snap on the ball there. You do throw your hands at the end, which is really good. Like that kind of hand position you're seeing right there. If you guys watched our last one with our buddy Jay-Z, he does a really good job of throwing his hands, and that's kind of where his hands end up when he does that too. But yeah, I think maybe just a little bit late on the snap, just by a hair. Like right there, I would like to see that front hand starting to turn over maybe, where it looks like it is right about there at that point. But I would say overall pretty good. Anything else you'd want to point out on either one of these swings here?
One thing that we'll talk about is just that transition from baseball to slow pitch softball and really just changing the hand dominance and that snap. And you see that, the video here we're guessing is earlier or older than the indoor BP session that we'll switch to next, where you're seeing a marked improvement in the flat swing. But still, one other thing that Matt's focusing on is that hand snap, and we'll talk a little bit more about that when we look over at those other videos.
Cool. Let's check out the other video. All right,
so we got a couple swings here that he'll take in succession.
Yeah, we'll have a few going here. Again, we're guessing this is, obviously it's indoors, but we're guessing this is probably maybe a little bit more recent. And when we were looking at it a little earlier, just kind of checking things out, we kind of think maybe there was a couple of things that got improved here. So let's look at 4 or 5 of his swings here while he's in live. So again, we can't see the ball coming off the bat, but we can still see a lot of the way the swing is formed and the way the swing is happening.
Much more level consistently through the swing bat path. Like that last one, the bat hits the flat plane at the back of his swing and stays pretty consistent throughout. So you're definitely seeing improvement immediately on that. I don't know if I noticed this in the first videos, but I don't know if this is a change. It almost looks like he overlaps top and bottom a little bit. I don't know. Maybe the batting glove skewed that a little bit, but definitely something that I'm noticing now in this video. So I don't know if he changed.
Let's see if I can. It's a little hard to see here, but yeah, you can see. It looks like he might be. I can't quite tell on the knob. It looks like he might be right on the knob, but it does look like he wrapped pinky from the top hand is kind of over a little bit. So not like a real dramatic one, like our other buddy Matt, or sorry, Mike. He does like a full-on overlap, whereas this is a little bit minor. Yeah, there you go.
He'll hang a pinky, and then he'll actually hold it like this.
Yeah, it's like he covers his entire hand with the other one.
Which there is benefit to that if you can control it. You can get a lot more snap. I just feel like I have no control.
I agree. When I do it, I feel like I have no idea where the bat's going at any point in time. But if it works for you, it works for you.
No one swung this bat. Fire.
Yeah, absolutely.
Andy Purcell Genesis 2-piece.
Got one back here
Fire.
too. Yeah, that's the bat. If you're playing U-Trip and you want something with the absolute best pop, grab a Genesis of any sort. If you can find an AP2, they're currently sold out. But yeah, or that one, that one's awesome too. That's the balanced version. So pretty much anything Genesis is going to be, I think they're all essentially the same bat, just with slightly different weighting. So go grab one. Looks like our man here is digging his KP23. So
yeah, I saw
I've heard a lot of good things about those too. So let's back it up here. Let's just kind of walk through some of these in slow-mo. So one thing I'm noticing, and again, this is totally up to you, could be a comfort thing for you. I know I like to start with my hands back. You've got those hands pretty far forward. Not a big deal in slow pitch because you have a lot of time. And I think really the thing that I'm looking at here is if you start here, you got to make sure you get those hands back. And I think you do a pretty good job of that. You reach them back pretty far. You might be able to get them a little farther back. I don't know. That's really up to your comfort level, but we're kind of splitting hairs here. But I think if you came to me and you were asking me for advice on your hand position, I think instead of starting here, I think I would have you start a little bit more back, maybe top hand a little bit closer to your ear. And that way, when you come back, you can actually stretch those arms back away farther and faster. And then you have more distance to travel. That way you can get a little bit more oomph behind it. But again, that's going to be up to you to decide if that little extra oomph or that little extra movement, does it take away from your accuracy? Because again, as we've said many times on this channel, OBP is king. So if you're going to lose 50 50 on base points just to add a little bit of power, don't do it. But if it's something you may want to work on in the cage or at BP, try it out and see what you think. If you can keep the batting average or the OBP up and hit for more power, can't beat that. So, but as far as stride, I know you mentioned something about his stride a little earlier. So
yeah, so it looks like he's getting a little bit bigger of a stride in the cage here than he was outdoors.
Yeah.
I still think he probably even has a little bit more if he wants it. But yeah, a nice big stride. Not a super aggressive leg kick, but gets that momentum moving forward. He's really striding off that back leg. You can kind of see focused here is more on his upper body now. So I would say the first couple swings that we were looking at, he was a little bit more lower body dominant like I am.
Yeah.
And I would say this swing, you're kind of seeing the transition to focusing more on the upper body as far as like the rotational speed of his swing. It's minor, but it's just something I've noticed.
To go along with that upper body, again, I haven't had a big long conversation with Matt, so I don't know exactly what his game plan is, but if I would, just from looking at the video here, it looks like he's trying real hard to throw those hands, and it looks like he's concentrating on maybe not like easy place hitting, but hard, powerful place hitting here. So just from the swing, again, you kind of notice body and shoulders get forward. They're almost kind of right on top of that front leg from what we can tell here. But really aggressive hand throw at the ball, which again is great. If you're going to be cut swinging, you got to have good hands, good fast hands. I think that, again, while you lose maybe a hair amount of power, I bet you his accuracy on hitting the ball where he wants to hit it is probably way better that way than it is if he kept all his weight back. So I would say as far as swing path, keeping it pretty flat here. I'll go ahead and go through the next swing too, but again, nice setup. Hands are even a little farther back than normal. Hands go back, leg goes forward. That one looks like it may have been even like an inside pitch because it looks like he kind of came in to get it, but still looks like he met it nice and on a pretty flat angle. Hands fly through, and you can also tell it was probably inside because his back foot had to come. He kind of had that scissor a little bit. His back foot had to come towards the plate a little bit there to probably just to get a good angle on it. So can't fault you for that. Gonna give you the benefit of the doubt. You're going with the pitch on that. So at least for these first 5 or 6 swings, they all look, other than it looks like swinging for different placement of the ball, like these all look very consistent, which being consistent in your statistics comes from being consistent in your swing. So I got to imagine,
Dropping knowledge.
Dropping it. I mean, it's true, right? I mean, if you can do the same thing every time and then just adjust one little thing depending on the pitch, I would imagine you're going to have good success. So certainly a thing I can work on. So I wish I was a little better at it too. But
so the one thing that we had talked about before we started recording here and we're watching these videos, and something that I've really been doing a lot of research on lately is kind of switching from the just completely bottom hand dominant nature of baseball into using that top hand in your swing to really push that snap. So one thing we see, Matt, a little bit, and it's very consistent among baseball players transitioning, is it looks like you're leading with the top hand the whole way through the swing. And so it causes your snap to come just after contact point. You're losing a little bit of that extra oomph that you can get from the bat. And I've been watching a lot of Ryan Harvey lately. And
That's
one
a good
thing
guy to
that
watch.
he talks about, so I didn't know he actually played in the bigs for a year. One thing he talks about is the transition at the start of your swing. You're really trying to swing the knob. You're really trying to get there. But how he talks about the transition to how the top hand really pushes the snap through, and how that is the biggest change that he's had to make. And one thing that he focuses on is really using that top hand to flick through the swing, as opposed to what it looks like is happening here. And I do this all the time too, is you're really just focusing on bottom hand controlling the entirety of the swing, and how the top hand in slow pitch is actually really important. So if you were to push through with your bottom or with your top hand, you would allow that snap to come in a little bit earlier. Could add a little bit of extra exit velo on your swing. Yeah,
totally agree. Just anecdotal evidence for myself. Once I learned about that, however many years ago, again, Ken Van Bogart, if you've never checked out his channel, check him out. Swing breakdown, or swing makeover rather. Awesome series for that stuff. I learned a ton there, and big thing I learned from that too was that, again, you call it the wrist snap or the wrist flick. And once I started getting that, one, I didn't know I was missing it. Like you
Sure.
couldn't tell. Like I didn't know that was a thing that needed to be added. But once I started doing it, it was, one, it added a ton of velocity to the ball. Two, I didn't need to be any stronger to make it work. That was the thing. 100%. That was what was so crazy, is that I added power without needing to swing the bat full body any harder than I already was. It's just adding that extra mechanical advantage of really using that long fulcrum to just whip that thing out there, and just huge velocity increases. I mean, I went from, on my best day, hitting the ball 250 to hitting the ball over 300. It was a massive difference. So again, it looks like Jason was saying, you still got a little bit of that baseball swing in there, which baseball swing doesn't really involve that wrist snap. I mean, maybe a little bit, but it's certainly not a focus on a baseball swing. Whereas I think that'll make a huge, huge, huge difference here for Matt, as soon as he can kind of get, and he's got some of it. So I don't want to say he doesn't have any, but if you could start focusing on it and really get that thing to just feel like it just snaps open super hard, super fast, and it's all a wrist flick, I think you're going to see big velocity increases. Again, though, make sure you're practicing it in BP, practice it in the cage. Don't take it out to the game first weekend that the fields are open again. Make sure you got that thing down and it's part of your swing, so that your on base stays up, but now you're adding velocity instead of, I'm going to try out this new thing at the game. So,
funny enough, first few times that I actually saw wrist snap, I would be like out in front of a ball, and it would actually be like an off balance swing where I'd be like, ugh, flick my wrist, and you'd be like, oh, I just flew out 280 and I felt like crap.
Yeah.
So like sometimes you may experience it in an off balance swing where you actually do part of the swing right.
Yeah.
And you didn't mean to, and you're like, how did that happen?
How did that ball fly like that?
Oh, now if I could build this into my mechanics of doing it every time, then I could be doing that plus an extra 50, 60 feet.
Yeah.
And it's on command at that point, right?
100%. Because especially when I was first learning it, it was like I was trying to do my regular swing and then flick my wrists at the end, and it was way out in front. And again, I was hitting the ball hard, but once I got my timing figured out and all of it was working together, it really, really popped. everybody keep an eye out on the channel here. We are having some plans for, power hitting tips, stuff like that. I am certain we're going to be doing a video that probably solely focuses on the wrist snap because it's such a big piece. So definitely keep an eye out there too. We're going to be working on that over the next few weeks or whatever. So try to get those out for you before the seasons start, of course. But yeah, I mean, I think overall things, if I had to give Matt some final tips of advice from looking at these, I would say think about maybe a little bit harder or longer step, not a ton, maybe an extra like foot length, maybe not even a foot, just like your foot length, and then maybe try to keep that weight just a hair back while maintaining your ability to kind of get the hands in there. And then again, the thing we just talked about would be that try to start implementing that wrist flick a little bit there too, again, to add a little velocity. Any parting words there you would give him for, what you think would help?
No, I think whatever you've been doing to work on that flat bat path, it's really making a difference. So kudos to you that it's looking solid. Just the timing of that wrist flick, it's just a transition from baseball to softball.
Yep.
And just kind of working on that, like you mentioned, checking out Ken Van Bogart. We'll have some stuff in the near future, kind of going through some different ways to focus on that as well. But, if you just square up that timing of that wrist flick, you're probably going to find that your exit velo is going to increase just because you're getting a little extra whip that you weren't getting before. It's energy that you were using, you're just using it late. And so you're feeling it in the follow through as opposed to feeling it at the connection point.
Yep.
And I bet you can see a fair amount of increased velocity in your swing.
Yeah, absolutely. So definitely want to say a big thanks to Matt for sending these out. If anybody out there is watching this and you're interested, send us an email, messages. I mean, actually, leave us a comment is probably the best way to do it. Leave us a comment, and then we'll try to get a hold of you, figure out a way to get some video. Again, if you can get behind the plate views, if you can get profile views, those are always the best for us. But if someone out there is interested, let us know, and we'll do our best to get you on the channel here. So thank you for watching, everyone. We really appreciate it. Depending on what platform you're watching us on, like, subscribe, leave us a comment. Anything you can do to let us know that you like what we're doing here, we really appreciate it. We'll see you next time.